Confirm classification, now.
6 hulls, full combat signature.
No escort, sir. That's not a patrol. That's a trap.
6 of them were mine to tow, and none of them were supposed to be worth panicking about. Which is exactly why Watch Officer Corvin Ittry's hands were shaking on the console 3 systems away. I hadn't even finished my coffee. My name is Wally Petrosky, and my job, such as it is, involves hooking a tow cable to obsolete Earth Navy hulls and dragging them past the orbital ring so the yard crews can strip the plating and drop the reactors into the sun before they get cranky. It's not glamorous work. My towing rig, the Patricia, has a top speed a bicycle could beat downhill, and my last 3 performance reviews describe me as adequate, if occasionally late. I got the job because I failed the physical for anything more exciting and passed the one test that mattered, which was not falling asleep during a 14-hour tow shift. That Tuesday I had 6 hulls on the line. Old Constitution-class frigates, the Bell Rider, the Okafor, for others whose names I never bothered learning because you don't get attached to scrap, a thermos of coffee going lukewarm in the cup holder, and absolutely no idea that anyone besides my supervisor Denise was watching. Watch Officer Corvin Ittry of the Thren Ascendancy Patrol Cruiser Marrow's Edge picked up the formation on long-range scan and did not like what he saw. 6 vessels, moving in a tight, disciplined line, no escort, no evasive maneuvers, transponders wide open like they didn't care who noticed. Human fleets did not travel like that, not without fighters screening the flanks, not without at least pretending to hide. Corvin ran the scan twice. Both times the formation held its lazy, plodding course, and both times something in his gut insisted he was looking at bait. Confirm classification, he said. His sensor tech confirmed 6 vessels bearing standard Earth naval signatures. Escort? Corvin asked. None visible, sir. Fighters? None, sir. Then what? Corvin muttered. Is guarding 6 warships? Nobody could explain why bait would move this slowly. Archivist Sella Braun got pulled off her tea break to consult on the reactor readings, and the numbers ruined her afternoon. Each hull's core was putting out heat consistent with a fully active warship at combat readiness, not the cold, dormant profile of a routine transfer. 6 ships' worth of that output, strung together in a line, was either the most reckless training exercise in galactic history or something built to survive an ambush that hadn't happened yet. She flagged the anomaly with a note. Reactor output inconsistent with escort-free transit. Do not approach without clarification. Her assistant, a junior archivist named Podrick, leaned over her shoulder and asked the question she'd been avoiding. What kind of ship runs that hot without shooting at anything? Sella didn't have an answer she liked. Nobody read past the first sentence of her note before the order to intercept went out anyway. When the Thren boarding cutter matched velocity with the tow line, Corvin expected resistance, turrets tracking, point defense spinning up, something. Instead, the lead vessel didn't even acknowledge the hail. Up close, the hull plating was scarred, patched, and streaked with rust in long amber ribbons, like something that had been through 100 fights and never once been repainted for appearances. That wasn't a warship in quiet reserve. That was a warship that had earned every scar and been allowed to keep them, and nobody sends something that battle-worn out on patrol unless winning was never really in question. Why does a hull this old still register full combat power? Corvin asked. His second-in-command, a clipped, humorless officer named Rask, suggested it might be a decoy rigged to overheat on approach. Corvin wanted very badly to believe that, right up until the boarding party reported back from the Bell Rider's weapons bay. The main cannons had already been stripped out for parts, the missile tubes emptied, the point defense grid powered down and half disassembled. The ship was, by any reasonable measure, unarmed. Corvin found that somehow worse than if it hadn't been. A fully armed warship being cautious made sense. A gutted, weaponless hulk drifting through hostile space without so much as an escort implied its reputation alone was doing the work weapons used to do. Nobody on the bridge had an answer that didn't frighten them a little. Fleet Marshal Osric Dawn came aboard personally once Sella's team confirmed all 6 vessels had been towed back into Thren space intact, and he wanted to know exactly how something so effortless had felt so wrong the entire way in. Sella walked him through the ship designated Bellrider first because its combat log was the shortest, and shortest, it turned out, was relative. 41 engagements. 0 losses. A margin note added by a human officer years ago read only. Reassign crew, hull nearing structural retirement. Recommend replacement with newer class. Osric read it twice. They retired it, he said slowly, for being outdated. This. Then he asked to see the Okafor's log, assuming it would be worse, and it was. 63 engagements, 1 hull breach, 0 losses, and a decommissioning note that simply read, scheduled obsolescence. Osric set the display down carefully, the way a person sets down something that might be more dangerous than it looks. Scheduled, he repeated. They scheduled the retirement of a ship that never lost. In advance. Sella found the pattern before anyone told her to look for it, which was somehow worse. Every one of the 6 hulls carried a decommissioning order for the same reason. Not battle damage, not budget cuts, not political maneuvering, but a single standardized line stamped across all 6 files, superseded by improved hull class, current unit reassigned to disposal queue. These ships hadn't lost a fight in their entire operational lifetimes. They had been pulled from service because something better had replaced them, and the something better wasn't named anywhere in the files she had clearance to see. She stared at the disposal manifest for a long time before she made herself say it out loud. This is what they didn't want anymore. When she called it into Corvin, he asked the only question that mattered. What replaced them? Sella checked every file she had clearance for and found nothing. No specification, no hull number, no name. I don't know, she admitted. Whatever it isn't in anything we've captured. Osric ordered a full sensor sweep of Earth's shipping lanes to find out how many more of these obsolete hulls might be drifting through human space unescorted, and the answer, once it came back, emptied the command deck of conversation entirely. Dozens. Scattered across a dozen systems, every one moving at the same unhurried, unescorted pace. Every one headed toward the same quiet industrial graveyard the 6 captured hulls had been pulled from, towed, without a single active warship anywhere near the convoy, by vessels with all the tactical sophistication of a garbage truck. Nobody was guarding these ships because nobody needed to. Rask, standing at his shoulder, asked the question nobody wanted to be the one to ask. Sir, if this is what they throw away, what are they still using? Osric didn't answer right away. He just kept staring at the dots on the display, dozens of them, drifting along their slow, unguarded, contemptuous little routes. Then he finally said what he'd been circling for the last hour. They don't even guard their trash. Rask asked, quietly, whether they should return the 6 hulls and quietly withdraw the intercept order before anyone on the human side even noticed. Osric considered it for exactly as long as it took to remember that the request would have to go through the same diplomatic channel that had triggered the intercept in the first place, and decided that particular humiliation could wait until morning. Back on the Patricia and my dispatcher radioed to ask why my tow signal had dropped off the board for 6 hours, and I told her the truth, which was that some very polite aliens had shown up, taken all 6 hulls off my cable without so much as a tip, and left me a stern-sounding recorded message my translator rendered as mostly vowels. I told her I'd already filed the incident report and that Denise was going to be furious about the missing scrap quota. She asked if I'd been scared. I said mostly I was annoyed because now I had to explain to insurance why 6 ships' worth of salvage in transit had been seized by a foreign government, and that paperwork takes forever. Did they say what they wanted with them? She asked. I told her the translator caught one phrase clean through all the vowels. Return of stolen military assets, or consequences will follow. I laughed for a solid minute before I remembered I was still on an open channel. Word came back through official channels a few days later that Earth Naval Affairs had responded to the Thran Ascendancy's formal protest with what I'm told was the diplomatic equivalent of a shrug, an apology for the confusion, a polite note explaining the vessels were end-of-life salvage awaiting disposal, and an offer to simply let them keep whatever pieces they'd already disassembled free of charge, as a goodwill gesture. Denise said the response letter took a junior attaché 11 minutes to draft between other tasks. I believe her because 11 minutes is also how long my lunch break is, and I've never once felt rushed. What I didn't mention, because I genuinely didn't think it mattered, was that the 6 hulls in question were the oldest, slowest, cheapest ships in the entire decommissioned queue. The kind of hull nobody argues about losing. The kind we send to the yard specifically, because the new Meridian-class replacements make them look like a rowboat parked next to an icebreaker. An entire alien fleet command started a diplomatic incident over the fleet equivalent of a broken lawnmower. I finished my coffee. It had gone cold, but you learn not to sweat the small stuff in this line of work. Word around the yard is Denise already filed a replacement order, and if the Thren thought 6 retired frigates were worth panicking over, I really hope nobody ever shows them what's towing out next quarter. I did ask, out of curiosity, what a Meridian class actually looks like next to a Constitution class. The recruiter who answered the phone got very quiet, said, "Above your clearance, Wally," and then, after a pause that lasted a little too long to be comfortable, added that I should probably just keep towing the old ones and not worry about it. I've decided not to worry about it. I've got 4 more hulls scheduled for pickup on Thursday, and Denise says if I lose another one to a foreign power, it's coming out of my bonus.